Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this special meeting of the Darien Board of Education. This is a curriculum committee meeting. It is Thursday, February 17th. Our next meeting was scheduled for March 24th, but needs to be rescheduled. So we will let you know when our next meeting will be. Today, we are going to discuss 6 to 12 English with Francis Janosko, course enrollment appeals process, and that'll be that. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Tranberg and Mr. Janosko.
Thanks, and I'll just quickly thank everyone for being here and tuning in. And the 612 presentation for English that you're going to hear today is really in two parts. One is just looking back and looking ahead, and then part two is about the instructional focus of this year, and you'll see some connections to, hopefully to EduPlanet 21 and what we're hoping to do with curriculum. So, Mr. Janosko, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning to share some of the great work that the English department's been doing this year. And as Chris said, I want to also, I assumed this role in the 2017-2018 school year. And so I've been doing this for about 4.5 years at this point, and I wanted to look back at some of the great work that our teachers have been doing over those 4.5 years as well, and to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing this year and how it's going to translate into the future. And so if you'll indulge me, I want to just start by thinking about what I do. And so I've broken apart my role, and I wanted to, obviously I have responsibilities when it comes to supervision and evaluation for teaching and learning and for communicating with parents and students. And I just wanted to bring out a few things that maybe aren't obvious about my role that might be interesting for you. I help develop, along with teachers, their student learning goals at the beginning of the year, and I support them on the work that they do toward those goals. And then obviously I give them feedback on classroom lessons. I worked in this district for 13 years as an English teacher at the high school before assuming this role. And never once was my supervisor or evaluator an administrator with an English teacher background. It was always math and science. And I'm not saying that the feedback was poor, but it's just a different dimension that I can provide my teachers when having conversations about their lessons and what we do, because we have a shared language and shared experiences. So I think that's important to highlight. Under teaching and learning, one thing that might be interesting to note is that I am the person responsible for all advanced course placements starting in grade 8 when we have our advanced 8 course. This involves coordinating and compiling all the data and all the other criteria that we use for placements, using that to make the placements, sharing out those placements with school counselors, with teachers, with administrators, and with parents and with students, and then having many conversations with both parents and students about the process and about which course, if their student is a good fit for the advanced courses that they've applied for. And then, in addition to that, with parents and students, I have a great number of conversations with parents and students beyond just the placement process, because especially when it comes to the high school, parents and students have a lot of questions about the courses, and if they're the good, especially our electives and our core courses, to see if they would be good fits for their students. So I spend a lot of time having conversations. There's nothing I like better than talking about our courses with parents and students. And this is where I spend a great deal of my time, and I just wanted to highlight that for you today. And I want to move ahead and really celebrate the great work that our teachers have done over the past 4.5 years. They have done a lot of work on revising and updating our units and our courses. And so I want to highlight some of the work. I'm going to start with grade 6. And as you know, we are very lucky in this district in that we have 2 English courses in grade 6. We have English A, our reading course, and English B, our writing course. The teachers have done great work in those courses. So I want to highlight the end of the year unit that we have for both courses. So it's aligned in that we study the mystery genre. So in the mystery class, we focus on elements that help build suspense. And in the writing class, they use those same elements to craft a work of mystery fiction. It's a very fun way to end the year in grade 6. One of the ways that we differentiate our instruction at the middle school is through our book club units. And one of the more popular ones is in grade 7. It's our survival book club unit, where students read books that focus on characters battling against the elements. It makes for a lot of adventure and excitement for the students in that that unit. In grade 8, we've updated several units, including one called Essential Research Skills for Teens. We're working on that. We're finishing up that right now as we speak in grade 8. And it culminates with TED Talks that students deliver to their peers where they demonstrate their expertise in the topics that they've been researching. That's a great unit as well. At the high school, we have revised our grade 9, English 9 course. Our new essential question is what makes for classic literature. So students in that course read the classics and think about what makes them classic literature, and they apply that in a project at the end of the year in which they read a work of contemporary fiction, and they have to decide whether it attains the ranks of a classic or not and use evidence to support that claim. In grade 10, we shifted to an essential question focusing on seeing the world through different perspectives. And in order to support and enhance that, we've brought in some world literature titles to focus on different perspectives. And our thinking behind that is also to take advantage of, in the history department, they have world studies in the 10th grade year. So to try to align the courses a little bit along those lines. In grade 11, one of the highlights in the last 4.5 years has been to redesignate our 400 level course from an honors course to an AP Lang course. And to do that, we had to change the assessments so that they're aligned with the AP exam. And we also had to change the really cool project that we have at the end of that year, which we call the editorial board project. And that entails students selecting celebrated works of fiction and nonfiction, talking about presenting them their merits with their peers in classrooms, and it culminates in a multi-section conversation among all the students in the class, where they ultimately in a debate decide on the summer reading for that course for subsequent juniors. So it's a really cool, authentic program, project that we end the year with. Here's grade 12, and this is what our grade 12 offerings looked like 6 years ago. And to put this in context, actually World at Seminar is second semester there, but that's okay. These courses had been in place for with one exception, for more than 20 years for our seniors. And then through the hard work of our teachers and their creativity, listening to the interests of our students, and through the generosity of the Board of Ed to help us with resources, our school year, our senior year looks like this. I'm not sure why it's all out of place the way it is, but we see a lot of thematic semester literature units in one semester, and you can't see it because it's hidden behind that photo. But in second semester, we have what I would call our crown jewel, which is English Capstone. It's a phenomenal course that our students reflect on their educational career in our schools and think about how they're going to apply that education as they move forward. I want to celebrate our summer reading. We've made some changes to align the assignments at the middle school for summer reading. We have made some changes to align our expectations at the high school so that all students are expected to do summer reading at the high school. And I also want to highlight a program that we have at the middle school called the Summer Reading Ambassadors. It's a cool program where we partner with the town library, and you see a picture of Mia Orabona, the teen librarian there. So we work together and we wind up having students from grades 6 and 7 apply for this program. We select 16 of them and they select readings that the town library is promoting, which we also promote as well because that could be our summer reading for middle school. And then these students promote through book talks our summer reading program to their peers. So it's a really cool program that we have going at the middle school with this. We also provide extra levels of challenge to those students that need it. And we also provide extra support for our students that need it. And I want to highlight one thing that we do, one thing that we support that does a little bit of both. And that is we founded 4 years ago a chapter of the National English Honor Society at the high school. And this honor society, the members, as their service requirement for that honor society, they spend a little time every week in our peer writing center working with students. Our teachers provide them with training to help guide them in having writing conferences. And in this way, we really challenge some of our better writers at the school, and they have really good conversations with students who need a little extra, little help with their writing. It doesn't replace our writing instruction in our classrooms, but it's meant as a way to support students. I should also mention that NEHS also co-sponsors some of our great events. Last year, we had a special guest author visit, Madeline Miller visit us virtually for our students. And this year, I'm pleased to share with you, I'm not sure if you know this yet, but at the end of this month, we're bringing in Pulitzer Prize winning author Michael Cunningham to give a talk to our sophomores in the auditorium. So we're very excited about that event, which is co-sponsored by NEHS. That brings me to PD, and this is a way for me to shape the path for my teachers so that they are continually reflecting and enhancing their practice for the benefit of our students. And you can see some of the focus points that we've had over the past 5 years. I'm very proud of the work we've done. Obviously, we've made a shift so that the focus was on 6 through 12 PD. So that necessitated coming together and getting to know each other. And I also want to highlight how proud I am of the work that we've done ever since March 2020. Last year we did a lot of work on streamlining our curriculum and developing technologies to support our work with remote learning and with hybrid learning. And we had to change our assessments to accommodate the situation we've been in. And our teachers did fantastic work, and I just want to celebrate that as well. And finally, I am up to the work that I want to highlight that we're doing this year, which is on prioritizing and unpacking standards. So what does this entail? What does it mean to prioritize and unpack a standard? Well, the reason that we need to prioritize standards, and I'll just take a step back and just say, if you see our classes, the standards are alive and well in Darien High School, in the middle school and the high school. If you see our teachers, it's embedded within our curriculum, and our teachers address them over the course of the year, undoubtedly. But I think there's a lot to gain by really drilling down and looking carefully at those standards. And the reason to prioritize certain standards over others is that, well, for one thing, there's a lot of them. If you add up the different strands that we have in ELA, we're talking about reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language. And altogether, there are approximately 80 standards that we're contending with, right? I'm a fan of 80s music too, so there's that. So there are a lot of standards to contend with, and that's for every grade level, okay? And then I want to talk a little bit about unpacking them, and that's sort of like the vogue edges speak for zeroing in on a component of a given standard and analyzing that given component, okay? And the reason for doing that is, let's look at one, and this is the one that we're focusing on this year. And if you look at this standard, there's nothing strange or controversial about it. And our English teachers, upon looking at it, would say, yes, I do that, and I value all of those things. But if you really break it down and think about all the different things that are embedded within this given standard, there's a lot. That's more than a lesson. That's several lessons worth of focus. So just think about 80 standards, and then within the standards, there's a lot of sort of subcomponents to look at. So what we've done is we've isolated one piece of this standard, and that is simply quotations. And if you think about quotations, even there are rules and techniques and sub-skills that go along with it. So there's just a lot when it comes to just using quotations that we would have to do for our students. But this is what we've been focusing on this year. And so this is how it works. I have what I would call an exemplar document that you can look at afterwards. And in this document, for every grade level, we have focus areas on quotation instruction. And the theory is that the things that we do at grade 6, if we can master these at grade 6, then that will prepare students for additional and second level quotation work at grade 7 and so on. And so you'll see that it's sort of a systematic approach to using quotations 6 through 12. And every one of the pages here has a strand of essay writing, let's say, and they have the standards, they have important concepts, rationale for why we should do it. You can see that they have terminologies, right, listed here. And then the most important thing is at the bottom of every page, And that is, what must our students be able to do? What must they be able to do with quotations at that grade level? So for our analytical or argument work, you can see that it is to introduce direct quotations using short signal phrases and properly cite them, really basic and really fundamental. And just to put it in context, we have plenty of kids who come from 5th grade and they sometimes use quotations, but they don't introduce them and they certainly don't cite them. So this is a very useful thing to work on in grade 6. And so you can see it played out here in some student work where we have a very basic signal phrase, we have the quotation, and we have the citation. So the hope is that this is sort of the foundational work that we'll do in 6th grade when it comes to argument writing or analytical writing. When we go to grade 9, things are a little bit more complicated and we add some things to it. And along the way, they're also going to be responsible for the things that we do in grade 7 and grade 8. In grade 9, you can see we have some other terms such as dropped quotations, blended quotations, quotation analysis. And the real focus in grade 9 is that our students select quotations with some interpretable element to them that they will analyze in the space below the quotation. So I'll give you an example of student writing. And you can see this is taken from an essay on Of Mice and Men. And we have a writer making an attempt to kind of blend this quotation into the writer's sentence. And the key thing to look at is how the character Lenny is being compared to a type of a dog. That's technically what we call a simile, but the concept is metaphor. And in the space below, our student is explaining the metaphor, explaining how it's important to see the characters in the text seen through this animalistic lens, and then tying that together with the theme or the claim of that paper. So that's a point of emphasis in grade 9. And I'll just show you one more, and that's grade 12. Excuse me. And for grade 12, we have some higher order things that we're asking students to do with quotation work. Since for grade 12 for English capstone, we have a long-term paper that requires them to synthesize sources. So one of the things we ask them to do is to properly cite sources within a given sentence or within a given paragraph, so the reader can obviously know which source is being cited throughout, because there's a lot of them there. And then to properly do a block quotation, which they'll have opportunities to do in that paper. And so this is just an example of a properly used block quotation. Now I have the actual student works here redacted, and if you want to look at those, and you can see some other things, how they play out in those student examples if you'd like. Well, the point to all of this is not that we're going to forever be focusing on this one unpacked standard of quotations, but that this is stage 1 of our work. And so I thought, well, I'll come and present to you, and I'll have this really cool graphic with all the different stages. So I had this circle I was working on, and it just didn't fit. You know, I'm an English teacher, so I couldn't resist taking the opportunity to use as my structuring element the structure of an Elizabethan sonnet. So, so if you look at quatrain 1, which is stage 1 really, and that is really the work we've been doing this year, and that is using an exemplar like this. We are focusing on one prioritized unpacked standard differentiated by grade level, and we're doing that work this year. Our second quatrain or second stage is to have the teachers to prioritize several or an assortment of standards that are high leverage, and to unpack those and to replicate the work that we've done in these exemplars in what they identify as important. The third stage, or the third quatrain, and if you're interested, this is the quatrain with the EF rhyme scheme. We want teachers to develop models of what that's going to look like in terms of student work, and to target lessons that really get at those standards. And then finally, our rhyming couplet is that we want our teachers to develop assessments that are designed to measure how well our students do with those standards. And as you heard from Chris Tranberg, he introduced you recently the curriculum mapping software or platform called EduPlanet 21. We're in the very early stages of getting to know what that looks like, but early indications are that it's really going to focus on assessments, and it's going to allow for us to bring in those prioritized and unpacked standards into that. So I think it's going to dovetail nicely with that platform. So that is really it. I just had a couple things I wanted to add, if you don't mind. I wanted to just show my appreciation for A great number of the English teachers at the high school and the middle school have chosen this quotation work as their SLO for this year for their student learning objective. So I'm very appreciative that they have made this a focus for their year. I am also, I want to share with you that I guess maybe this is not, you know this, but I just feel like it needs to be said anyway. You know, teachers don't get into this profession because they have some deep desire to work on the Connecticut state standards, right? It's something that's important and it's something that they care about and value and do. But I just want to highlight and show my appreciation for all the other things that our teachers do, because if you see a lesson in the middle school or the high school, you will see that our teachers on a daily basis provide our students with a very rich and meaningful experience that transcends any of the learning standards. So I want to make sure that they know that and you know that. I think we all know that, but I just feel like that needs to be said as well. And at this point, I just want to turn it over. If you have any questions about anything that I have mentioned thus far, I'd love to address it.
Thank you, Francis. That was really thorough, and I definitely learned some things. I think what popped out was the value of the department chair role, and I appreciate you unpacking what you do. I think just having a 6 to 12, making sure that it builds from 6, 7, 8, and so on is really, really important. And I think that value showed here, even when you're unpacking that one small quotation standard, it was very clear how it moved from the youngest secondary up until senior year. So thank you for that. I'll open up to board questions if anybody has any.
I appreciate that. I just had a couple questions. One, are you using MLA for citations? Do the kids have access to sources, or that the parents know? Because not every parent knows, how they can support their child with that.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say the lion's share of the rules that govern quotation work are derived from MLA. So for our sophomore year, that's the year that we're focusing on developing works cited, and we have the citation work that even begins in grade 6, but we don't have them do a work cited in grade 6 because typically they're using one source, so it doesn't make sense to do it that way. But absolutely, we focus on MLA.
And this actually doesn't have to do necessarily with this, other than you touched on AP. And I apologize that I don't remember where I read this recently about, and Chris, you may be able to talk about this as well, and we may not even have thought about it yet. But I saw that Connecticut State is going to mandate that there is access to all to APs for everyone. And has there been thought about how we're going to handle that?
Actually, that's something that Chris is going to talk about.
Okay.
Anything else for you? No.
Yeah, thank you
Let's say that.
for the update or review on English.
Sorry. Thank you for that update and review on English. I guess part of our work years ago on the board was making sure the transition from writing and writing skills in the middle school matched expectations in the high school. How do you feel that work is going? Are your teachers giving you feedback, kind of both up and down, of how that work is going? Do they feel students are prepared entering 9th grade? Because it is significantly more work and we are expecting more kids. Do you feel that work is continuing?
Yeah, and I think that this is a small example of how that is going to continue to work. We have very, strategically placed at the 8th grade. If you think about like this quotation use, in the 8th grade level, what we're having students do is include some quotations and sort of blended and introduced in certain ways. And then we want to make sure that they're able to explain the quotation and also explain why it's important. That's like the next step toward the analytical work that we're going to do in 9th grade. So if they're able to do that work in 8th grade, it sets up the work that I explained to you just a few minutes ago in terms of the analysis that we do in grade 9. The only difference is that we're not so concerned about finding an interpretable element in the quotation in grade 8. And a lot of the reading that we do at grade 8, there's a lot of great books that we do, but there's a little bit more emphasis on YA and not on, say, some kind of classic literature. So there isn't always interpretive elements in it. But this is an example of the work that's meant to make that transition from 8 to 9 easier for our young writers.
Just one other quick thing I would say, for the course 12 work, I think it's been, the English department deserves kudos for rearranging those classes. We heard from students, we heard from the department about making things more relevant, making sure kids had texts they were interested in, they were going off to college, making choices, having student choice. And I will tell you, all the feedback we've received at the board table and anecdotally has been that has been a success. So I know we've looked at capstone, we've looked at all these things, but those, and I'm a big supporter of capstone, just side note, but the course selection and the choice and the work the English department has done in looking at who's enrolling what courses should we change up, and really trying to get kids excited about their learning. I think the English department has done an excellent job and has come back to us year after year reporting on that, including introducing new courses when necessary. So kudos to the department for doing that. I think it's really put a lot of energy into the department. And that doesn't take away from any energy was there, but kids having choice and the department recognizing that, I think, is a credit to your teachers and to you as department chair. Thank you.
I will second that and just say that just the dynamic nature of how you all look at everything is wonderful to see. So I also appreciate that. Julie Best apologizes that she can't be here. She had a question that she would like me to ask you. Is there any consideration in your department to potentially changing the freshman advanced class to an honors so you get the GPA boost?
That's a great question. I'll simply say that we are one of 2 schools in Durham A that does not have an honors class in grade 9. The accelerated class has been in place for a great number of years. I think that, that is something that certainly our teachers would be interested in talking about. But I think the most important thing to consider is the 9th grade year was done by design because at the time there was an effort not to have all of the 9th grade class have honors level courses and have students making that transition get overburdened by taking too many of those courses. And so accelerated 9 is meant to be sort of a sub-step in between a regular course and an advanced course. I mean, it is an advanced course. But as you probably know from experience in any accelerated courses at the high school, it's very difficult to walk that line consistently. And we do expect a lot of the students in that course. So your point is well taken. What we've tried to do is give students an assortment of different levels. In history, they have a heterogeneous year. We have accelerated courses, and we have in biology, we have honors. So it's a great conversation to have, and I would look forward to that.
Thank you.
Can I just want to dovetail on that one thing that you mentioned, that it was kind of a sub-step. So if you did, because the thing is the kids that do math 3, right, do have the opportunity for honors math in 9th grade, right? So this was part of the whole AP English lit English line. There wasn't the same opportunity for AP classes years ago for the English student, right? Which was great. So thrilled that that AP course came about. So if you did switch the 9th to an honors English, are you saying it would then even become more burdensome on the child? Just curious. Like,
well,
I shouldn't say burdensome.
In
I should
theory,
say a heavier workload.
no, I understand your question. And, in theory, what we have in place, this accelerated course shouldn't be, it's designed to prepare kids for the honors track, if you will, that begins in grade 10. So in preparing them, obviously, we want to make the work challenging and give students a sense of what we expect. I would think that if we made that into an honors course, then it would, possibly raise the expectations of that course, and that could happen. I just want to point out one last thing about our curriculum and about access to honors and AP, that we made a very conscious decision several years ago when we brought the AP Lang course to the 11th grade. Because if you look carefully, we also have an AP Lang class in 12th grade, and we have a different curriculum for each, and the kids can't take that, they can't do it twice because that would look strange on the transcript, so we can't do that. But they're very different courses. And the one that we have in grade 12, since the kids in our, say, honors and AP sort of track, they don't take that, they take the lit course when they get to grade 12. The kids who wind up taking our grade 12 AP Lang course are typically kids who have been in a 300 level course and they have never had a chance to challenge themselves, and they look forward to that opportunity in the 12th grade year. I taught that course for a number of years, and it was great to see kids finally have a chance to really explore and raise their game, so to speak. So I like to kind of frame this for parents in that, every student at the high school at some point will have an opportunity to take an AP English course at some point in their career if they want. That's available. So I'll leave it at that. But these are very interesting questions about our 9th grade year, and they come up frequently.
Thank you.
Can I now, sorry, I could probably sit here all day and talk to you about this. So then I didn't realize that 11th and 12th AP Lang were different. I didn't realize it was a different, I thought it was just.
Completely different course. They're all aligned to the AP exam. So the style of the assessments are aligned to that. But the content is different and is framed different. In 11th grade, the focus is on American Lit. And we have a more traditional, if you will, English language and composition course at the 12th grade level.
And what's
So-
the reason for that? I'm just curious.
Well,
It
it was
seems like,
purposeful. I mean, part of it was purposeful to allow
That's right.
students opportunities of growth. Not all kids emerge at the same time. And if you learned or worked hard to allow you opportunities to take it, I mean, it's a very purposeful design.
Yeah.
no, I mean, the different curriculum, the different content. If it's not going to be the same kids taking the course, I was just,
I suppose we could duplicate it, but I would just say that if you look into any of the AP English classes, they have suggestions, but it's sort of open to different schools and how to interpret that and frame it. And since in grade 11, our focus is on American Lit, we didn't feel like, regardless, every student, whether they took AP or not, focused on American Lit.
okay.
So it wouldn't
that's
be
really
this,
this-
it would be ridiculous to repeat that.
Gotcha. No, that's the purpose then. Okay, that makes sense.
Be stuck in the same.
Right. No, that's what I was looking for.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you
Okay.
for enlightening us and sharing your knowledge and your passion with us. I appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll move on to the course enrollment appeals process.
Absolutely. So, Ms. Worm, thank you for setting me up for this one. So we already do have processes in place when students are making the course selection process to, if they do not meet the prerequisites for a class, there's an appeals process that we have. There is legislation that is in effect as of July 1 of 2022 that puts some guidance on that to allow all students to have access to the highest level courses. What we're proposing is really just a slight adjustment in the high school's process. So at the end of the day, there can be an override, so to speak, with even after students go through the placement process and the appeals process that we have, that students and families can work together to override placement into that course. So that's the adjustment that we're making, and we feel like it better aligns us with the legislation. I will say that I have been working with Ms. Sion because this is going to have to be a policy, because the law is that districts will have a policy. Shipment is not ready with the language yet, but this would have us prepared when that time comes to say that we're meeting it. And if we don't change our process as students are selecting courses now, what could happen is the law changes July 1 and students will now have access to classes, and then we'll have a little bit of a scheduling conundrum if students want to change their placements. With all of that said, I've been around a while, and our school counseling department is just they're outstanding. And they work very hard to make sure they're providing appropriate guidance for students and families to make sure they're in a course where they can be successful. And they will continue to do that. Our department chairs will continue a placement process and not just say, at the end of the day, if parents can override, we're just not going to do that anymore. Let people pick what they want to pick. That's not responsible, and that's not what we're going to do. We want to make sure that we are creating conditions for students to be successful in the class that they want to try to be successful in. So that's the spirit of this. I would say I don't anticipate this being a dramatic change in practice for us, but I wanted to be transparent that this because you heard about it. So we want to make sure that everyone's aware that we're in compliance with the spirit of that legislation.
Thank you. And just to be clear, this is across all disciplines and all subject matter.
Yes, across all disciplines and subject matter. And I know Mrs. Dunn has been in contact with our Durgay principals, and it seems like we may be the only school that doesn't currently have this process in place already. So just to be aware of that.
And is there the process for the reverse? So if a child places into the honors or AP or whatever, can they appeal to go down to the?
Yeah, they typically don't need to appeal to do that. That would be a guidance counselors encouraging them to say if the teacher feels like you're ready to do this. That's also an assessment of quality of life balance, right? Like if you're recommended for 5 AP courses and you don't want to do 5 AP courses because you know you're going to art school and you need to focus on your art portfolio, you need to make that balanced decision, and that's where the counselor can be really helpful.
Great, thank you. Additional questions?
My only question would be, will we be prepared with more honors or AP teachers for larger class sizes or more kids signing up?
So the good thing is after students sign up for classes, that's how we assign sections. What could happen in the first year as we're going through the growing pains of a change is we might see maybe more students are dropping from a certain course because we have more students, for lack of a better description, taking a chance on a course they may not have otherwise. So we'll need to work that out, but there shouldn't be any staffing. There's no staffing request associated with this.
Great, okay, thank you. All right, thank you. We'll move on to public comment.
Is there anyone in person who would like to comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reminded after our last meeting that only committee members can ask if you, but now if you want to do public comment, you can.
I don't think that's exactly right.
That's what our chair told me. But anyways, moving on.
So there's providing access, meaning opening the door, but there's also actually actively seeking students who might normally not find themselves, think of themselves as being ready for an AP. As part of this, are you having conversations with counselors and or teachers about how to reach out to students who maybe should stretch, who might not traditionally have done so?
Yes, I'd say that has to be part of the process. And you go back to, well, why does this even exist in the first place? And the reason that this exists is that, right? We want to make sure that we're not missing students who, because they have not met prerequisites, that they are never going to be able to achieve at a certain level. And so the language that we've consistently used, especially in secondary education, is that, yes, there's a track, so to speak. And I know we don't like that language, but it's what it is. But students have the opportunity to move out of that track and go to the other one. We know that students do often go from an accelerated track and take a step back. But we know that it's very challenging, especially in math, for students to go from a lower track and accelerate up. And in high school, it can be too late to do that unless you are going to outside resources, you're getting tutoring, and you're doubling up on your math, so to speak. So this is really about making sure that we are not missing students who can be successful. Because one thing we know is if students complete one of these courses successfully in high school, it's an indicator of post-secondary success.
Anybody online? Oh, sorry.
Hi, Katie Loveland, 24 Maplewood Drive. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the board for bringing this presentation and to you for coming and explaining so well. Your presentations make us all want to go back to high school. Everyone's like laughing at your cute little stories and like wanting to take these classes that sound so exciting. And then just on a personal note, I have a rising 9th grader and then also a 6th grader this year. And I just wanted to say that through their own progress, I can see the impact that the department chairs have on the curriculum, the engagement that the students have by knowing what they're doing this year and how that's going into next year and what courses they might, you can really see the inspiration of them wanting to do their best, wanting to engage with text and learn that. So I just want to say thank you for really bringing that from the top all the way through the levels.
Thank you.
For participants via Zoom, please click the raised hand option Please state your name and address for the record log. There are no raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn.